Listen, when she starts creating distance, your immediate reaction is to assume she is no longer interested, that she is cutting you off, or that you made a mistake. But what if the reality was actually the complete opposite? What if the reason she is pulling back isn't a lack of affection, but rather that she is overwhelmed by her feelings and is terrified of what they imply? Pay close attention, because the insights I am about to share go against everything you have been told regarding the way women think. There is one specific habit at the conclusion of this video that 99% of men totally misinterpret. Once you recognize it, you will be absolutely certain that she is struggling with her own emotions. But first, you must grasp a startling fact. The same person who seems frightened of you today might have already pictured a life with you. And that is precisely why she is retreating. I am going to explain the specific indicators that distinguish a woman who truly does not care from one who is simply shielding herself from falling too deeply. Because once you can interpret these markers, your perspective will shift. You will stop feeling anxious, you will stop pursuing her, and you will begin to perceive what is actually occurring beneath the surface. So let us address the difficult question. Why would someone run away from a person they truly like? Let us look at the reality of why she is withdrawing. Imagine the situation. She was friendly, involved, and playful. You shared excellent dialogues. She appreciated your humor. The connection was undeniable. Then, out of nowhere, she becomes distant. Her replies become brief. She is suddenly occupied all the time. The vibe changes entirely. Your logic tells you one thing: she moved on. But here is what most men fail to see, and it might sound irrational. Occasionally, the most powerful emotions produce the most intense resistance. There is actual brain science behind this. When a woman starts feeling unexpected attraction, her brain triggers the same stress signals as if she were facing a threat. Her amygdala essentially processes emotional openness like a physical risk. Reflect on that for a moment. Her body is chemically instructing her to escape from you, not because you are a bad choice, but because you might be the right one. Why? Because being vulnerable is frightening. This is especially true for women who have experienced pain in the past, for those who value their autonomy, or for those who did not intend to develop feelings for you. When real affection begins to grow, it activates something internal: the fear of losing control, the fear of being wounded, or the fear of wanting someone more than they want her. And here is the detail that will surprise you. She has likely already evaluated you without you even noticing. Tiny trials, intentional distance, or fabricated tension, all designed to see if you will chase her like every other man. Depending on your reaction, you either succeeded or failed without even knowing a test was taking place. I will explain what those trials look like in a moment, because once you understand them, you will see them everywhere. The defense system activates, build barriers, create space, and pull back before things go too far. This is not a logical process. It is emotional preservation. Her mind is attempting to guard her heart. Ironically, the more she is attracted to you, the more she might try to push you away. But here is the vital part. When a woman is scared of her feelings, she does not just vanish entirely. She leaves traces, habits, and contradictions that seem nonsensical. If she truly had no interest, it would look different, and that is what we are about to analyze. However, before I list the signs, you need to understand something most experts won't mention. There is one specific type of woman who will never display these behaviors, regardless of how much she likes you. If you are dealing with her, these lessons will not apply. Wait until the end, because I will describe who she is and how to identify her instantly. So, how do you distinguish between a lack of interest and emotional self-defense? That is where the true understanding begins. These are the signs she is actually afraid of falling for you. Before we continue, do one thing for me. Press the like button, because what follows includes an indicator so subtle that you will immediately picture someone you know as soon as I mention it. Let us keep moving. Here is the first indicator, and it is the most confusing: hot and cold patterns. One afternoon, she is messaging you immediately, laughing and opening up. The next day, she is unreachable, taking hours to reply with one-word responses. If she genuinely did not care, the vibe would be permanently cold. This back and forth is evidence of internal struggle. One part of her wants to get closer, while the other wants to run. Here is a startling detail. The warmer she acts one day, the colder she will likely be the next. It is not random, it is proportional. If you have an incredible talk tonight, expect her to be distant tomorrow morning. When you notice this cycle, it is not a sign of rejection. It is resistance to her own emotions. She is essentially penalizing herself for getting too intimate. But wait, there is a hidden detail here. Look at when she becomes distant. If it consistently happens after a deep conversation or a moment of vulnerability, that is your definitive proof. The second indicator is psychological. She becomes defensive when you get too close. You ask about her personal life, you give her a sincere compliment, or you mention the future casually, and she suddenly deflects, cracks a joke, or changes the topic. Women who are not interested do not get defensive. They simply do not participate. But when she is afraid of her feelings, emotional closeness feels like a danger zone. So, she erects walls the moment things feel too authentic. Now here is where it gets fascinating. Observe what happens if you pull back after she becomes defensive. Does she start pursuing you? Does she reach out with a random message? If the answer is yes, you have confirmed her fear because she does not want you too close, but she also does not want to lose you. The third indicator will make you rethink every past interaction. She observes you while pretending not to. You notice her glancing at you when she thinks you aren't looking. She checks your social media updates within minutes but takes hours to answer your text. She remembers specific details about your life that you only mentioned briefly. The strange part is that she recalls things you said weeks ago that you have already forgotten. That is not casual curiosity. That is someone who is reviewing your conversations in her mind. This is the conduct of someone who is paying close attention despite trying to act indifferent. If she did not care, she would not be looking. I will explain exactly how to handle this in the strategy portion, because once you realize she is watching, you can communicate without uttering a single word. The fourth indicator is where most men get confused. She mentions other men, but never in a serious way. She might casually note that someone asked for her number, that an ex reached out, or that a colleague is flirting. But if you look closely, there is no real emotion in those stories. What is actually happening is a subtle test. She is checking your emotional stability. Will you become possessive? Will you withdraw? Will you fight for her? This is a defensive move. She is creating fake competition because deep down, she wants to see if you are willing to stand your ground. But here is the catch. If you show jealousy, you fail the trial. The correct reaction is total indifference, mixed with a bit of amusement. More on that shortly. The fifth indicator is a clear giveaway. Her social circle acts strangely around you. They give you knowing glances or seem shocked when she acts distant. They might even drop hints like, "She talks about you constantly," or "You should message her." What they aren't saying is that they recognize her habits. They have seen her act this way before with men she actually liked, and they are curious to see if you are different. If her friends are interested in you, it is because she has made you a primary subject of their conversations. Women who are not interested do not discuss you with their inner circle. Furthermore, if her friends start creating moments for the two of you to be alone or suddenly leave when you arrive, that is not a mistake. It is a plan. Now let's discuss how to manage a woman who is afraid of her feelings. Most men commit one of two errors. They either push harder to convince her it is safe, or they leave entirely because they think she is playing games. Both approaches are wrong. Pushing harder proves you are needy, while leaving proves you never cared. Neither is charming, and neither makes her feel secure. Here is the approach that actually functions, even if it feels counterintuitive. Give her some breathing room, but do not vanish. Do not overwhelm her with validation. Do not force her to be open. Do not try to argue her out of her anxiety. That only proves you are too invested too early. Instead, reflect her energy, not out of spite, but out of respect. If she retreats, you retreat as well. Not as a punishment, but to demonstrate that you are not desperate, that you have your own life, and that you aren't just waiting around. The sophisticated part is that when you pull back, you must return to your own goals, not to nothingness. Be steady, but not overbearing. Reach out occasionally and keep the tone light. Show her your interest remains, but your life isn't on pause. Here is the subtle tactic that works. When you do contact her, make it about something specific. Do not just ask, "How are you?" Instead, say, "I saw this and it reminded me of you," regarding something actually relevant. This accomplishes two things. It shows she is on your mind, and it shows your life is interesting enough to have things to share. When she notices that her distance does not rattle you, something significant happens. Her anxiety begins to fade because her biggest fear, losing herself in the relationship, feels less like a threat when you aren't demanding all of her focus. Show a bit of vulnerability, but remain stable. Share your own experiences, but do not make her your project. Women are drawn to emotional maturity, not emotional neediness. For instance, instead of saying, "I really like you and I am scared of losing you," say, "I have been hurt before as well, so I understand the hesitation." It is the same point, but the energy is entirely different. Most importantly, live your life to the fullest. Focus on your fitness, chase your objectives, spend time with your peers, and build a life you value. When she sees you succeeding, she realizes you aren't waiting for her to make up her mind, and she starts to feel safe because a self-assured man is a man she can trust. Now, as I mentioned before, here is the exception. There is a specific kind of woman this will not work on. She might show all these signs but will never commit. She isn't afraid of feelings. She is addicted to the pursuit. The difference is that a truly fearful woman will eventually open up if you are patient and steady. A woman addicted to the chase will always find a fresh reason to pull away every time you get close. How do you tell them apart? It is simple. The resistance of a fearful woman decreases over time. The resistance of a chase-addicted woman stays the same or grows. If after months of doing everything right, she is still inconsistent with no improvement, she isn't scared, she is enjoying the attention, and you need to walk away, do it for your own self-respect. Here is the final truth. You cannot force someone to stop being afraid, but you can be the type of man who makes fear feel unnecessary. When you do that, you aren't just making her feel safe. You are becoming a man who doesn't need someone else to feel complete, which makes you worth choosing. Remember, every minute you spend overanalyzing her behavior is a minute you aren't spending on your own growth. That is the real challenge. Can you be interested in her without becoming obsessed? Because the moment you become obsessed, you have already lost, not just her, but yourself. If this message hit home, leave a comment with the word feelings, so I know you are listening. Be sure to subscribe, because next week I am sharing the specific text that makes an anxious woman start chasing you. You won't want to miss it.